Hi there, and welcome to Worlds Collide. So first, before we start, I wanted to say thank you for tuning in. I think I haven't said that before. So I really appreciate you for tuning in again or checking it out if you're a new listener. I hope you will like it here and that you will stay for more episodes. So this is a podcast where I talk to people who moved abroad, expats or immigrants. So in this episode, I talked to Geraldine from France who moved to the US. I know it's another French story, but it's such a unique one. You definitely have to stay for this. It has a lot of 80s Stranger Things vibes, minus the upside down, of course, if you know what I mean. So I don't want to take away too much. So here is the interview. Hi, Geraldine.
Hi, Victoria. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being on my podcast. I'm excited to have another French expat or immigrant. We'll find out in such a short time. It's the second one in this season and the second one in general, or like for my whole podcast so far. So where are you right now?
I am in the northern part of New York State in the Adirondack Mountains. I don't know if that you know where it's located.
I personally don't know, but I know Upstate.
That's what we call Upstate, and I'm not going to get into that. But other people would say, "Oh, Upstate New York starts from outside of Manhattan." But anyway,
we don't have
I'm actually closer to Montreal than I am from New York City. I'm 4.5 hours drive from New York City, and I'm only 2.5 hours south of Montreal.
Oh, see, I had no idea. Oh, I thought it's way closer to New York City.
No. It's actually further. It's up in the mountains, and before coming here, I didn't even suspect there were mountains in that part of the country.
Okay.
You know how in high school they teach you geography, and it's like you got the Rockies and you got the Appalachian Mountains, and then that's it. You don't even know
exactly.
what's around. But I discovered. So I'm originally from France, like you said. I came here in 2016.
Okay.
I had just separated from my husband. I had a very toxic relationship, so I'm not going to get into that. But how did I end up here? Actually, I reconnected when I separated from my husband. Since I was in a very isolated relationship, I rediscovered some kind of freedom, and I reconnected with some people that I had lost touch with. And I had met a few people on the eastern side of the United States, including Perry, who's now my partner in crime.
Okay.
And that is because I'm 51 years old, and back in I'm not sure if that was graduation year or the year before I graduated from high school.
Okay.
I got involved into shortwave radio, the citizen band radio, what people have in their cars or in their trucks to communicate.
Okay. So in the trucks, sure, yes.
Yeah. So my father was into that big time, and he was like in a radio club, and and then he started taking it a little bit further, but he didn't speak English, so he came across that type of radio goes with propagation of waves along the atmosphere. What's around the earth, so it's kind of complicated, but anyway, so that summer I think I was like 17, can't remember exactly if it was 17. So he's like hearing all these people speaking English, and you know how that goes, in that you have a call sign and everything, and hey, can you hear me, basically, way before the dating sites.
It sounds like Stranger Things.
Exactly. That's a bit like it. So it's like, hey, This is whatever, WZ, whatever. Can you hear me? I'm in northern France. I'm like, yeah, I can. So my father goes like, oh, I'm hearing all these people, but I can't, talk to them. I don't understand English. Can you just
Yeah.
come and listen?
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh, I was this introvert, I mean, really shy kid. And I'm like, okay, I know English in school, but I'm like, you're asking me to talk to people that I don't know. I mean, I was afraid
Of
to
course.
talk to people even
Yeah.
in French. So
Yeah.
I was like,
Yes.
so okay, I'll come listen. And he was very pushy. So he goes like, oh, maybe you can just say hello. And it's like, one thing leading to another. I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
was behind the microphone saying hello. And of course, that at the time, it was a very masculine
Mm-hmm.
circle,
Yeah.
lots of guys. And so hearing it like a female voice on the radio,
Uh-huh.
it's like, hey, you, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm in New York, I'm in Florida, so I was like, kind of make quite a few contacts. And then
Uh-huh.
I started to like it.
Uh-huh.
It's like, for me, I loved languages in school because I was bad at math anyway. So,
Okay, sure.
so
Sometimes you
I
have to
was
be good
like,
at something.
I had really good teachers, and they, passed on their love for the language. And so I saw an opportunity to practice the language every day. And
Mm-hmm.
it was becoming fun, and people were really nice.
Uh-huh.
So we had, lots of people coming back on the same, it works like with a frequency, just like on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on a certain frequency, and people would come back and say, hey, Geraldine, how are you? It's this, it's that, it's me, it's, so we started making conversation, and that lasted the whole summer, and I think a little bit in the fall. But
Oh, wow.
in the winter, the angle of the Earth is not the same, so the propagation
Ah.
does not go as far
Uh-huh.
as.
Okay.
So that's how I started, and I met one guy named Perry, and he was
Uh-huh.
in upstate New York, and he used to listen to me. He sometimes he'd pop in and say, "Hi, how are you doing?"
Yeah.
Basically, we were telling each other what was going on in our lives. Like you can, meet someone and then, have a conversation, and
Uh-huh.
that was it. And so during the winter, since we couldn't talk to each other, and I was talking to quite a few people, we started corresponding, writing letters. And
Mm-hmm.
at the time, it took like a week or two to go to the other across the
Yeah, yeah,
pond.
yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
that was fun. We started, corresponding, and then the next summer started talking again during the summer. So I was like, and all these people were so nice, and I was starting to, we were starting to develop a relationship. And they were all telling me, hey, Geraldine, if you ever do come to the States, please
Uh-huh.
come visit us. That would be you know such a thrill to just meet. And I
Yeah.
said, okay. So fast forward, I'm 20 years old. I think I just had my associate degree in college,
Mm-hmm.
and I had chosen English.
Uh-huh.
Looking back at it, if I had the opportunity, I would change, but because I had the English already. But anyway, so I'm like, okay, I've got this money, I can buy a ticket. And it's like, is it okay if I come visit you? Is it okay if I come visit
Uh-huh.
you? And like
Yeah.
like that with a few people. So I landed in Washington, D.C., and then I went to visit a bunch of people
Uh-huh.
in North and South Carolina, then came back to
Oh,
D.C.,
wow,
stayed
you
with
had
a
a nice
friend.
road trip.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then I'm not sure if the first year or the summer after, because it started becoming like my summer thing,
Ah, okay.
and in college in France, you have 3 months vacation. At the
Mm-hmm.
time, you used to have 3 months from July, I think July, August, and September.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
I would go 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
would go back. And then Perry says, hey, your sister's in the States too, because my sister started doing the same thing.
Uh-huh.
Started speaking to radio people, and then she had different friends, so she would
Okay.
go visit different people. So here we are both in the States, and Perry says, okay, your sister's in Pennsylvania, you're in DC, I'm in upstate New York. Let's meet somewhere and go camping for a few days.
Okay.
I said,
Okay.
okay, sure,
Not
no
all
problem.
so
So
far.
we met halfway,
Uh-huh.
like in Lackawanna State Park, somewhere in Pennsylvania. Had a really nice 3-day camping trip.
Uh-huh.
And then that was it. And then I came back to France, and then the person that I was in with in DC, I had become my boyfriend in the meantime. So we had
Uh-huh.
kind of a long distance relationship that didn't
Okay.
work out. So fast forward a few years later, and all that relationship, I had 3 kids,
Uh-huh.
and then I ended up in 2016. So in 2016, I'm starting a Facebook account, and
Okay.
who do I come across? Perry.
Yeah, of
And
course.
Perry tells me, I thought you were dead. I didn't have any news. I
Uh-huh.
just,
How long was it until you last spoke then?
I think it was almost 30
Oh,
years.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. A long time. Uh-huh.
So we started, having a conversation, and he says, I really was in a bad relationship, so I really needed a breather. And he said, if you ever want to come up here and rest, you're very
Mm-hmm.
welcome. And I said, you know what? I have time. I'll take you up on your offer. So, it was a nice
Mm-hmm.
way to reconnect. And
Yeah.
so we did that. And obviously, I really loved it here. It was
Yeah.
exactly what I needed at that time in my
Uh-huh.
life. So I had never lived in the mountains. I'm originally from Lille.
Uh-huh.
It's up in northern France. It's 2 hours north of Paris, very close to the Belgian border.
Mm-hmm.
So it's completely different here. Of course, I knew what the states were. I had been to cities in North and South Carolina. I had seen both sides, the countryside and the city. And
Mm-hmm.
here, he had been talking to me about how the fresh air and everything, and the mountains, like the Adirondacks. It's that type of thing where it's not very well known, but it really should, because it doesn't have the status of a national park, but it's a huge um preserve.
Okay.
Like nature is really present. It's
Uh-huh.
really wild. You have the Adirondacks is just probably as big as 3 or 4 national park gathered.
Oh, wow.
Like,
Yeah. Sounds
so,
awesome.
and I'm like, people, I had never heard of it. And
Uh-huh.
sometimes Perry was telling me that, when he went to California to visit his sister, people would not know about the Adirondacks. Like, where is it? So I'm like, I started saying it's incredible that people don't know about this place. So, I mean, it's like the mountains, the lakes, the landscape is beautiful, and to me, it was really a change from
Mm-hmm.
my urban life, because I used to live on the outskirt of the city,
Uh-huh.
so it was like a smaller city, but it was still the city.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah. Uh-huh.
traffic jams and lots of people, and here it's like, wow, I ended up here. Like, I was like, I could see deer from outside my window. I
Yeah.
could see the squirrels, and it was quiet. It was just like, I was having a really nice time just walking down the road and in the mountains. It was
Yeah.
really, really nice. Just by the river, it was really, really nice.
It's
So
really what you
really,
needed at the
yeah,
time. Yeah.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
And then you just stayed? How?
Oh, so of course, yeah, that part is. I had to go back to France because I came on an ESTA
Yeah,
waiver.
3 months.
So 3 months.
3 months
So
visa,
it's
yeah.
like, so Perry had an old friend of his who was a lawyer, but he was not really in that field. So
Okay.
I ended up going back to France and switching on a B2 visa, which is a tourist visa, actually, that
Yeah.
that allows you to stay longer than 3 months. I think it's 6 months each time, and it's
Ah,
valid for
okay.
10 years. So I went back to France for 2 weeks, and I came back with on that visa, and then I went to see an immigration lawyer. That it was
Mm-hmm.
actually a lawyer that's not far from where I live,
Uh-huh.
and I did not suspect that, but he found me a way to get a green card because of my
Ah.
situation. The thing I forgot to say is my ex-husband is an American citizen, but
Ah, okay.
he kept his
Okay.
he kept his citizenship when he was living in France. So
Right. Okay,
um
that makes more sense then to me.
so I was able to get a green card through the
because of
yeah, because of that
his, yeah.
situation. So it's kind of
Uh,
complicated, so I'm not going to get
yeah,
into
yeah,
that,
but
but
okay, but that's was like a way you got your
so
green card. Okay.
I self-petitioned for a green card through that,
Mm-hmm.
and I got it for 10 years. So I'm
Yeah.
not now a permanent resident. It took 2.5 years to get it, and with the pandemic and everything,
Right,
it's
right.
just
Oh, the pandemic was in between too. Yeah,
yep.
that slowed down everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the good thing is when I started that process, because I could extend, I was able to extend my B2 visa, my tourist visa
Mm-hmm.
for another 6 months. So then I started the green card procedure. And when you start the green card procedure, when they take your biometrics and everything, then they automatically issue a work authorization.
Yeah, they
So
uh-huh.
3 months after starting the procedure, I was able to work. So that
Oh,
that
that was
that really,
quick because I
hmm
heard now it's 8 months.
yeah.
So,
Well, a
or
lot of
like
things
even
have
up to
changed.
11. So, so
Yeah,
3 months is super quick. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh. And
So
so what did you then start working?
so I wasn't sure the process was gonna go through. So
Ah, okay.
I and Perry told me, you're new here, you can become whoever you want and you can
Mm-hmm.
do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I love this thing here that even though you don't have a degree in a particular field, that you can switch and it's pretty
Yeah.
flexible, which is not the case in France. In France, they
Exactly. I
ask,
like that here too. Yes.
yeah, in France, if you don't have a degree, say you want to sell pastries, but if you don't have a degree in pâtisserie, in baking or
You're not
whatever,
gonna
you're
yeah,
not gonna,
you're not
and
gonna do it.
the banks are not gonna follow you if you want to establish a
Yeah.
business. Or so here I was like, okay, I'm not sure this process is going to go through. So I didn't want to, start something and have to tell my employer, I have to go back to France, or if that was the
Something like
case.
that. Yes.
So I thought of different things, like, substitute teacher and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
here it's a very big tourist area. It doesn't,
Uh-huh.
people from New York and the eastern states know about the Adirondacks because, sometimes generations have been going to summer camps and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I started working. Oh, no, my very first job was, I found it on Facebook, believe it or not. I was
Okay. Yeah.
I was on those expatriate sites, pages and groups, and there's this guy that's advertising looking for French natives to
Uh-huh.
do
Ah.
transcription, like,
Okay.
like I think it was for captioning purposes on videos, but you would get the audio files in French and you would basically type what you hear and
And
correct if it had been pre-filled, or voice based on voice recognition. You
right.
had the files and then you had to correct them. And
Right.
so that was really, that came
Perfect.
really perfect
Yeah.
at the perfect time. And then in parallel, I had started working for, we have a lot of Airbnbs and rentals
Right.
around here.
Uh-huh.
So I started working for a summer camp that had 13 bungalows, and I was doing cleaning. And
Mm-hmm. Ah, okay.
I've been a stay-at-home mom for quite a while, and I was like, okay, well, I can do this. I've done this all
Sure.
my life, so
Yeah.
cleaning I can. So I started doing that, and then the pandemic hit, and
Mm-hmm.
then everything went still. We just
Yeah.
couldn't work.
Right.
It was different. According to the state you were in, you couldn't. There was a travel ban from state to
Right. Right.
state, so everything stopped. And that the
Especially
trans, yeah,
travel. I mean,
yeah,
forget it, right?
and I couldn't. I was in my green card procedure, so I could not even
Could
get out of the country
no,
because
you couldn't. Would lose it. Yes.
I could have applied for advanced parole, but it's only in case of emergencies. And so I start then my transcription job started picking up because
Mm-hmm.
people were working
From
remote,
home.
so
Yeah.
that worked out really good. The year after, all the houses around here that hadn't been sold in the past years started selling
Selling.
like hotcakes. They were like
Uh-huh.
people wanted to get out of the cities and they wanted
Let's
to
go.
be able to have a
Sure. Yes.
backup.
I
Or
remember. Yeah.
so I started seeing a lot on the local pages, people asking for people, buying houses, wanting to put them on Airbnbs to be able to pay the mortgage quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Oh, I've been doing cleaning, so let's go." I answered to one person, then I'm like, "Okay, I can put an ad on that page." And that's literally what I did. I said, "I'm available weekly, monthly, whatever to your needs, rental calendars, residential or whatever."
Okay.
And I had to take my ad down because I had 6 people in 3 days contacting me, and I'm like, I'm never going to be able to be everywhere.
Yeah. 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 Uh-huh.
So I started that, and I was like, okay, this is working fine, and I enjoyed the fact that it was flexible. Of
Mm-hmm.
course you have to abide with the rental calendar, but it's flexible. You can regroup your cleanings, do 3 cleanings in a day, and then have the rest of the week off. So it worked out really fine. And I'm still
Okay.
doing this right now. So I'm
Okay.
working
Worked
with,
for you. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so, and when you then first came back to the US, did you move in with Perry?
Yeah, I was living at his mom's, and then we ended up moving together. Well, of course I didn't have a house or I couldn't rent
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
anything.
That's
So
why. That's why I was
yeah,
wondering, like, where did you live?
no. Well, obviously, we kind of felt that the relationship, there was more to it than just friendship. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And what about your kids? They're back in France?
Oh, my kids are like I said, I'm 51 years old yet. So they stayed with their dad in the
Uh-huh.
beginning, and then they moved out quickly. So
Yes, yes.
they all have their lives, and
They're already adults.
mhm.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did they come visit you?
My daughter came in 2019, and she was supposed to come back in 2020, but
Um,
then the pandemic hit,
yeah,
so
uh-huh.
we were in lockdown, and they were too, and a lot worse than we were. So
Yeah.
yeah, here we could go out, and the pandemic really didn't change anything up here in the mountains because we're pretty much isolated. It's not like we have, you know, a lot of people. Like the village I live in is like a conglomerate of 5 hamlets, and it's like maybe 2,000 inhabitants. So it's like we
Okay.
have
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
space.
Uh-huh.
We're not like crammed
Uh-huh.
in just one spot. So we were still able to go outside and have walks, and
Right.
you
Yeah,
don't.
that was the case for my family in Germany. They also live very countryside,
Mhm.
and they said they've never seen the forest so busy, because everybody just went out for walks all the
Yeah.
time.
Mm.
It's like it was always like really the only place where you met people was like outside in the forest, in the woods.
Yeah, let's go hike.
Yeah, what else is there to do? Do you still miss some things?
So, um, the only thing that I can say I miss, or food, I don't really miss. I just enjoy it when I go back. It's like,
Yeah.
of course here you can't find croissants, or you don't have a bakery at every corner of the street. I mean, it's
Right.
rural. So and I've pretty much cooked all my life, so I do the cooking at
Okay.
home. The only thing I do miss is not using my car.
Yeah,
I
right.
have to take my
Right.
car everywhere, and
Yeah.
it's just because it's like the roads in the mountains. It's not like you have like a bicycle path or a walking
Uh-huh.
path. It's like really. So in Lille, I was able to go anywhere I wanted with the
You
subway, the
walk.
bus,
Yeah.
the tramway. It was easy. It was quick. You walk a little more. So I enjoy doing that when I
Yeah.
go back to France as well. Um, and the thing that I miss too is having really close friendships. I mean, I'm not saying
Mhm.
that here I've got friends, but it
Yeah.
took longer. In France, people have this cliche of French people being rude and pretty, very
Uh-huh.
distant. It's just because we don't have the same definition of friendship. Here it's like really kind of flexible, and you can have a
Yeah.
friend and not see each other for like a year, even though
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you live 20 miles from each other, and you still have contact, and it's like yesterday, like you've seen the
Yeah, yeah,
person
yeah.
yesterday. In France it takes a little more time. It's I don't know if you've ever heard of that image of the onion. It's like you have to peel it layers.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, yeah, okay.
French people are like maybe seem to be like a little distant, but once you start, getting involved with them, and
Taking
and
the
then
layers
and
off.
it's like the next thing you know, you're inviting each other to have coffee at your house,
Yeah.
and so and it's not the same, but I've learned to kind of navigate that, and it doesn't bother me because I'm a little older and I'm more of an introvert. I've never been a
Mm-hmm.
very social. It's not that I'm not sociable, but I'm not,
You're fine with being by yourself.
a lot more. It was hard in
Yeah.
the beginning because, it's here, it's smaller communities. So
Mm.
people have known each other ever since they were little.
Little,
They
yeah.
grew up together. They went to
Mm-hmm.
the same school. They know each other. They work
Mm-hmm.
together. So it's kind of hard. Like you're the foreigner and you come in and you're trying to find your place.
Sure. Yes.
And so,
So
and
you also have to be then they are the onion, kind of.
exactly,
Yes,
exactly. So you
they
have
have
to
to get
kind of
used
like,
to you too.
yeah,
Yeah.
because here it's like if I say to someone, and I've had this several time happening to me, it's like, oh, let's hang out, and then the person doesn't get back to you, and you're like, should I call them, or are they going to find it rude if I just kind of like impose myself on them?
Do you sometimes think, I don't know, for me also this, hey, let's hang out here, it's more it just maybe it just feels to me like that, but I think it's just a saying sometimes,
Yeah.
they don't mean it.
Hmm. So that's actually hard to know. So and I remember one time, I ended up, because of the pandemic, I was on the local pages, and sometimes people would post something, and I met this girl who she's now one of my best friends with another one that's really
Uh-huh.
in close by, Jessica, and Margot is another friend that I have, and we met on a hiking site like Adirondack low peaks and lands or something like that. And then so she posts something, she's at waiting for her car, and she's got this croissant, and she goes like, okay, and I'm like, you know I can make those for you. And it's one of the things that you connect about is food.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
always a
uh-huh.
very good, and she goes, seriously? And I'm like, sure. So she goes, oh, I really like that. I can pay you for that. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, I'm offering. So she goes, 2 weeks later, I end up, cooking, and I'm trying to make croissants because obviously I have
Have you
never
ever made them
made.
before? Yeah.
I had
I have no idea.
Before coming to the States, I had never even tried or approached the idea of
No.
making croissants in France. So I'm like, here, it's the pandemic. I've got nothing else to do, and we're all
Sure, why not?
cooking up a storm and whatever. So I'm making croissants, and I'm like, hey, Jessica, do you want to meet someplace? Because we were still wearing masks and everything. She goes, are you kidding me? And I'm like, no, they're ready out of the oven. I
Yes.
can drop them. We can meet. So we met near, in between my place and hers, and I had made cookies, so I throw in a bunch of cookies, and she posted it on her Facebook, and she goes like, the best thing, because she's also a transplant.
Uh-huh.
She moved here from Tennessee. So she's
Okay.
like, she doesn't have that many friends, and we're connecting
Uh-huh.
like this. It's really funny how life works. So we met like that, and that was it. And one time I remember, like,
Did she like them?
yeah, yeah. So
I was like, yeah.
she posted on
Were
Facebook.
they
She says
good?
the best thing in the Adirondack after the landscape is the people, because
Oh, so
they'll
sweet. Yes. Yeah.
they'll hook up, and they'll give you food, and they'll just, do. And it's like that here. It's like somebody needs something, and I think it's due to back in the years when people established themselves in like in a wilderness area, and they
Hmm.
needed the support group and everything. Something happens to someone, and we're all here, we're supportive. And so that's how I met her. And then I met Margot through the same thing, and Margot just responded to that post saying, hey, I'm your girl. I want I want to try too. So I
Yeah,
was like,
okay.
okay, let's go. I'll make some for you too. So this is, and now we're doing girls' night. All three of us. So this is really still going
And you
on.
always have to make croissants.
No, I don't. I moved on to crepes and all kinds of
Oh, okay.
stuff. So that was nice. And
It's
uh,
like,
one time Jessica put up something, and we have a three-way conversation on Messenger, and she goes, "I'm not really feeling good today," and I'm like, "Hey, girl, you know what? Tomorrow I'm bringing waffles and coffee, and I'll stop at your house and we'll have a talk." And then I'm
nice.
like, "Oh my gosh, did I just invite myself?" And I'm still thinking the French way, of like it would be totally normal in France. Like tell the girl,
Just
"Hey, you're not doing
I'm
okay.
coming
Okay,
over.
yeah, I'm
Yes.
coming over for coffee and we'll have a good talk." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, Jessica. Did I just invite myself?" And she goes like, "Of course not. You're welcome." It's like I'll be in my
Okay, yes.
pajamas, but who cares?
Yes, I still don't know about this self-invitation because I do that too, and I'm always like, maybe I should not have said that. Maybe I should offer come to my house instead. Can I come over to yours?
Yeah, I think it's that thing when I say it's a layer. It's like people have like their smaller circle with their family, and then there's the friend family. But the friend family is kind of like maybe the people they were good friends at school, or friends through friends, and they grew up
Mm-hmm.
together. So it's another layer, and then you don't know where you're navigating, if you're like being a very good friend, and what is perceived. It's kind of another cultural thing, but
Yeah, exactly. Also, I feel making friends as an adult is always harder than as a child. I don't
yep.
know. As a child, you are friends with because you have the same favorite color,
Yeah, and
you
and
know,
and
and
like
then
you just cannot say, "Hey, I'm the foreigner. Can you be my friend?" It's just like
yeah, exactly, exactly. And especially if you move to a new place, it's all the other people, as you said, already have friendships as social circle.
it's hard. Yeah.
Like it's already all built, and you're like, hey, here I am. Can I fit in? I mean,
So
obviously you
it's
don't say
it's
that,
funny
but
because sometimes it'll come up in the conversation, like they're you know referring to a joke, and it's a cultural thing, like
uh-huh.
something they saw on TV that was really popular. And sometimes I'm like, "Hey, it's just Frenchy me. Can you explain?"
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't. They know that if I'm the kind of person who is going to ask, if I don't understand something or I don't get something, I'll ask. I'll just say, "Hey, is this a cultural joke? I don't get
Uh-huh.
it." Or so I don't. I have no problem saying, "Hey, I'm the foreigner. Can you explain?"
Yeah. Do you have other things that it's hard for you to get used to?
Maybe another aspect is the healthcare, and the
Oh. It's
here
like
we go
always.
again with the
Yeah.
big stereotype.
Yeah.
That's sometimes actually what happened is, a week after I had gotten here,
Uh-huh.
we had a motorcycle accident. So
Oh
Perry had
no.
been riding a motorcycle all his life, and I was like, you would have told me, I was 45 years old when I came here. You would have told me that 45 years old I'd be on a bike. I would have said, "No way."
Hell no.
And then and then he says, "Okay, I'm not pushing you. You want to try it? No problem." So I
Mhm.
tried it and I liked it. So here we are. We just went a little bit of grocery shopping. It's like mid-August, and we're on this back road, and suddenly the lights go out. And I'm like, my last sight was waking up, and they were wheeling me in an ambulance.
Oh, oh
And I was like, "What the hell is going on?"
no.
And
Oh.
actually, we got hit by a deer. And it must have come at an angle, because I
What?
don't remember. Perry doesn't remember.
Yeah, because like you just said the lights went out,
Yeah,
and I thought like literally the
yeah.
lights went
So
out.
the last
No.
the last thing I remember was singing on the back of the motorcycle, and all of a sudden I'm like, I open my eyes, and I'm lying down, and people are around me. So
Oh
that
crap.
was so. But luckily, I only had a broken clavicle, so But
And did you had insurance at that time?
no, so
Ah.
so the next thing you know, we're at the hospital in the
Ah,
emergency
shit.
room, and they say I have a minor concussion and a broken clavicle, and it's a clean break. So the
Mm.
only thing I have to do is wear my arm in a sling for 6 weeks. And they wanted to discharge me at like 12 midnight. And
Okay.
Perry was in the ICU because
Oh,
they suspected that his spleen was leaking. So he had to stay. So he's like, you can't release her in the middle of the night. Of course, I didn't want him to call his mom. She was an elderly
right.
person. It's like at night,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
you don't want to disturb anybody. And so he's like really getting angry because they say we have no reason to not discharge her. Her thing is minor, and I keep on telling them that I don't feel good. So they're hurrying me, rushing me to get
Sure, get
dressed,
out of
yeah,
there.
get
Yes.
dressed and
Uh-huh.
everything. And then Perry says, well, can't she come in the ICU with me? And they say we don't allow that. So I said, okay, and can I stay in the waiting room at least? And they
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, we can do that. So this guy wheels me
Yeah.
because you can't walk there, they'll wheel you
Oh yeah, I
on
remember.
the third floor in the in the ICU. So I tell the guy, before you leave me in the waiting room, could I just go to the bathroom because I really need to go? So he says, okay. So I get up, and then all of a sudden everything starts spinning,
Spinning. Oh no.
and I'm like, I don't feel right. I need to lie on the floor. He says, no, you're not gonna lie on the floor. It's like, sit back down. So, and I was like drooling. I was not seeing anything. Everything was
Oh my
spinning.
god.
So I was ready to pass out. So takes me back down to the emergency room, and I ended up
Uh-huh.
being admitted to for the night. So I just
And
needed,
what did you have?
I just,
What was it?
it was just the concussion, and the fact
Yeah,
that
okay. Uh-huh.
I fell on my left side, and I had a huge bruise
Okay.
on my left side, and it was painful. So I kept on telling them I felt drowsy, and
Okay,
something
but they
was
just
wrong.
wanted to kick you out,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
So I ended up staying the night, and I was feeling much better the next day. So the next day,
Mm-hmm.
his mom was able to pick me up. So that was a nice
Sure.
introduction to the healthcare system. And so
Uh,
they told me you have to go for a checkup in 10 days to make another
mm-hmm. Yeah.
X-rays, and it's like when you have something, there's always something behind. So I went up for that checkup, and I went to an orthopedic place, and the guy he takes a go with the technician, and they take an X-ray, and then the PA comes back, and he says, I'm sorry, but you only have 20% chance of recovery without surgery. and
Oh.
and I thought he was kidding, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you're joking, right? And he said, no, I'm not. And
Oh
I'm like,
no.
he says, your clavicle is shattered. I'm looking at Perry, and I said, how do I come from like a clean break to a shattered
To
clavicle?
shattered. Yes.
And he said, well, I don't know. There must have been a mix up at the hospital with the x-rays. Or
What?
so he says, okay, I'll leave you some time to, that was not the surgeon. So he said, you're going to go back to the hospital and see a social worker to get insurance, because my problem was I was out of the country, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have. So I think in New York State, you're eligible to get Obamacare. So they put me on
Mm-hmm.
Obamacare. It took a month before I could gather all the documents and
Okay.
do
Okay.
the procedure. And then I called the surgeon's office again, and I said, I'm sorry, it's been a few weeks, but I'm ready for the surgery. And the guy tells
Mm-hmm.
me, oh, we would have done it without insurance. And I'm like, what the hell? You told me to just get insurance, and then you're telling me you could have done it like 3 weeks ago. So anyway,
But then he would have been billed, right?
yeah. So
See,
it's
I mean, they do it without insurance, but then you have to pay out of
yeah.
pocket.
I
It's
think
like,
in a French hospital, if you had gone to, and I know for a fact, because I've heard stories of people having a heart attack, being brought to the hospital and having surgery, and then you deal with it, and then,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
but it doesn't end up being anywhere near as expensive as it is here. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so anyway, I had the surgery, everything was fine, and my bill was not huge. So but
Oh, good. Oh,
Yeah.
good, good, good. Uh-huh.
So that's one thing that, each here, if you don't have insurance, and even if when you do, you have to always think about how much it's going to cost you.
There are different kinds of
Mm.
insurances.
And here it's like there's a lot more incentive to go see the doctor on a regular basis than in France. And
Mm.
I was listening to another episode because I love your podcast and I've been binge listening it.
Thank
And
you.
and I think it was Judah who was in Norway, and
Uh-huh.
she was talking about not having the necessity to go see a doctor. And in France, it's the same. You go see the doctor when you're sick.
Yeah.
Here, when you're sick, they tell you to stay home and come back another time.
Yeah, it's like more preventative care
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's like now I'm 40, so now I had to start the mammograms.
mhm.
So now like I have to go every year. I don't know what the rule would that be in Germany.
I don't
I think this
know.
maybe is like if you want to do it then you can, but it's not a doctor's
It's a
order kind of
recommendation
thing.
and not an obligation or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Here too, they were, and I just didn't have time to do. I did one mammogram, and then I think in France it starts maybe at 40, but it's every 5 years, and then after 50, it might be a little more often. I have no clue, but
To go to the doctor in general, get your blood work or
in France, you can get a physical for free through the healthcare system.
uh-huh.
You ask you have to fill a form, and then you go to the hospital, and they'll take you for like half a day, and
Mhm.
you can have blood work done, see a PA, see a dentist, see
Oh, everything.
dietitian, gynecologist,
Uh-huh.
everything. But that takes a whole day. But if you're a person who's not sick on a and you don't have chronic disease or anything,
Mhm.
that's what I was doing in France, because I mean, besides being having the common cold or the flu
Right.
every once in a while,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wasn't sick. So it's, yeah. And here sometimes it's like it feels like they're pushing you into, and I'm like, I just don't have time. And they're always doing that in the summer when I'm so busy that I cannot even have time to rest. So
Mm.
let alone take a make an appointment for a doctor. So I was like, okay, I'll think about it. But it's and then they give up and they don't bother you anymore.
Yeah.
But it's and maybe now that I'm a little older and I have more time, then I'll do it. But
Okay.
it's pretty much the same that Judah was saying, that if you don't need to go, then you just don't go.
They don't want to
Mm.
see you. It's like, why is a healthy person here? It's like, why are you wasting my time
I had
right
a
now?
doctor in France, because I had three C-section for my kids in France,
Uh-huh.
and each time I used to go, even when I was pregnant, the midwife said, "Do you have any problems? Do you have this? Do you have that?" And I said, "No, no, no, no." She said, "You're boring." Of course, I said, "Oh well, I'm sorry to be healthy."
Yeah.
And she was joking, but it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
you're
of course.
boring.
Yeah. What about, are you getting used to the snow?
Ah, that's another thing. So it's very different here from Lille. Lille is like really flat, and whenever we have snow, it doesn't last. It's like it turns
It's
to
just a little
sludge.
bit.
Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
little bit doesn't stick. It turns to sludge really. And so when I came here in 2016, I was like, oh my god, snow! I was like, a little
Oh,
girl
so you
again.
came in winter?
No, I came in summer, but
Ah, okay, okay.
the very first snowflakes, and I was like a little girl again. And Perry said,
Uh-huh.
"We'll talk about this in 5 years." Okay. And I'm
Okay.
like, "No, it's really nice and everything." And then, because I didn't have to go to work and I didn't have to shovel
Sure.
my car or shovel my
Sure. Yes,
driveway,
yes, yes.
so it was beautiful until it's not anymore. because because you're like, oh my god, every 2 days you have to just clean
You
your
have to
car.
like, yes, you have to plan accordingly to get to work on
Yeah.
time, right? So
So,
it takes half an hour extra.
exactly. And we're not speaking of how many layers you have to put before you
Right.
get out,
Oh,
because
that's so
sometimes, yeah,
cold.
sometimes it gets cold. But anyway, so I think it's just a love and hate relationship. Sometimes, like right before the winter, I was like really prepared, and I was like, okay, maybe this year I'll enjoy it. And then when it started falling, it was fine. And then until it's like you hit that wall in the middle of winter, where like because our winters are longer than
Longer,
because we're
yes.
higher in altitude. It's like it's not really high mountains. We're not like in the Rockies or the
Mm-hmm.
Alps, but by March you start really getting tired
You're
of,
just over
it's
it,
like, and
yes.
right now this year I don't know what's going on, but it's so gray. We don't see the sun.
Mm,
It's fine when there's snow and then the sun comes out and then you
yeah,
can enjoy. I like it when it's cold and sunny, and then this year is really snow and it's gray and and
and it's
you're
great.
looking at
You
your
just want
yeah, you're looking at your
you want
weather
some.
app and it's like, okay, oh my God, there's going to be snow on Wednesday. And the next thing you know, you check again the next day and it says it's cloudy on Wednesday. And I'm like, oh my God. So-
It's like it's like the opposite here. It's like here it's like never ending to be hot. I mean now it's cold in
yeah.
winter, it's fine. But in summer it's like, "Oh my god, when does it stop?"
Yeah. Yeah. Well, eventually you get used to it because you have no control over that. So it's going to
Right.
snow anyway. And
Right.
the thing is, when it comes late, it's going to stay later. It's like, by
Ah, okay.
by by March, you really are looking forward to seeing sun and the
Yeah.
plants coming back to life and the
Yeah.
green, and
Yeah.
you're like, okay, and then comes in and the next snowstorm and the snow is heavy and you have to shovel your driveway. It's just never ending. So,
Like I remember last year, I visited my friend in Denver in Colorado, and it was in spring. I think it was either late April or early May.
mhm.
And here, spring was already in full bloom. Everything was already blooming and green, and the birds are chirping. And then I went there, and everything was still so gray. I'm like, what? Where's the spring? When does it come? It's
Yeah,
like, yeah, it's the
it's
first warm weekend we had, and so
it's
I was like, oh,
in the
it's
end
I
it
mean,
starts to be depressing. It's I mean, of course we're used to it, so we stay. It feels like you're kind of like trapped, or you of course you can go outside. So last year I bought a pair of snowshoes so I can go
mm,
snowshoeing, and that's really fine. That helps you, have a different perspective, and then you start getting used to it because of course you have no control over it. So it's like
yeah,
the snow's going to
yeah.
be there whether you like it or not. So
Yes. Yes, there's one of the moms that my daughter is in school with here. She's from Turkey originally, but when she moved to the US, she also lived in upstate New York for 9 years, and she moved away because of the winter.
yeah, the winter, and of course, it's not like in the city. If you have, you can't go, you have to take your car somewhere to go to the library.
Y-
We don't have like museums or, and most of the time, a lot of things are closed in the winter because
Mm,
of the road conditions and because
yeah, okay.
not as many people come up here to visit, and there's no
Right.
aren't any crowds in the winter. It's just mainly people that can go ski. I'm like 5 minutes away from a ski resort,
Okay.
so
Mhm.
it's really winter and summer are really two different seasons, and it's just
Mhm.
I'm more of a t-shirt kind of girl.
Okay.
Because
All
in the
right.
summer you can go out, you can go kayaking, you can go swim in the lake when it's too hot. You can do a lot of things. You can go hiking. I'm not a hiking fan, but you can. There's lots to do.
Maybe just like 3 more months and you can do it.
Yes, so it's like, countdown, but it's like, okay, well, some people say, okay, well, spring is around the corner. It's like, no, yeah,
Not
maybe in
not
April.
yeah.
I have
But half time.
Yeah, I have seen four season in June, like a
Okay.
real day
Oh.
where you start and you go up the mountain and it's snowing. It's like June 6th and it's
Uh-huh.
snowing, and
Oh
then
yeah.
by lunchtime it's like really hot, and then it gets crispy around 4, and then 6. you're like back in winter. It's like
Wow.
so it's yeah,
Wow.
it's it takes a little bit of adjustment, but that's, I wouldn't go anywhere else. I mean, I like the quality of life here.
Yeah.
It's really peaceful, quiet. There is no line at the grocery store.
Yeah.
That's the major difference.
It sounds like you're gonna stay there,
Yeah.
or that's the plan.
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
never say never because,
Yeah, you never
mm,
know, but
but the winters are starting to get to Perry, so maybe we'll, just go somewhere a little bit.
a
I
little
I
bit.
understand people from here wanting to take a break like midwinter and go 2 weeks in Florida or in California because
Mhm.
it's
Get some
yeah.
sunshine. Yeah.
But I love it. It's just the quality of life, and the people are really nice. It's
Mhm.
yeah. And also
Mhm.
it's the first thing that really impressed me when I came here. It's the you feel safe.
Okay.
The first time we stopped at a gas station with Perry, he left the keys on the ignition, and I'm like, "Hey, you forgot your keys, like you're not gonna lock your car or your truck." And he goes, "What for?" And I'm like, "Where I come from, your car is gone."
Uh,
It's like,
yeah, what's so different everywhere?
oh,
I would not do it here either. Well, it's like probably depends how many people
mm,
are around,
yeah.
right?
So nobody locks their doors, and I know a person who
Oh,
doesn't even
sweet.
even. She says, "Boy, if I had to lock my door, I would have to change." The locks because I think I lost the keys, and she doesn't lock
Yeah.
her house. She doesn't lock her even in the winter or in the summer when you've got the air conditioning on. People stop at the gas station, they leave their car on, they just go and buy a coffee, something, come back and drive their car, and it's nobody does anything. So it's really
Yeah.
cool.
And also, I saw you have also an Instagram account for American English.
Yes. So
And what is that?
why is that?
Or
Because
what is behind that?
because I have a bunch of French friends that I met. I was on those expats group, and then I started, with the pandemic and even before, seeing people looking for like native like or looking for people to help them with the language practice.
Mhm.
And I've always loved it, and also I'm very talkative, so it's like one of my friends nicknamed me when we were back on shortwave radio. My sister and I were like the ratchet jaws of Europe. That's how they called us. So,
Okay.
so I'm an introvert, but I love to talk.
Okay.
Once I get to know the persons, and it's getting better with age and not caring anymore about what people say. So it's just like
Mhm.
you just say it. So I said, hey, we can work something out. And I didn't know. Of course, you don't find a lot of French people in the Adirondacks. There might be one
Right now.
one or two.
Mhm.
So I met my now best friend, Cece. Cecile lives in Albany, 1 hour south of me. And she goes, hey, we're going to come live in the Albany area, which is the state capital. So it's like 1 hour from and
Mhm.
3 hours from New York City. So I said, sure. Well, when you guys come over, we can hook up. And then it was the pandemic, very little social interactions. And I said, if you want, we can do conversation on WhatsApp or,
Mhm.
video, audio, whatever you want. And then we started communicating like this. And then we started calling each other. And then we met in Lake George, which is like midway in
Uh-huh.
between us. And then we're inseparable now. It's like,
Okay.
and that's how I met Rachel too. And I had started an Instagram account because I wanted to share what I was seeing on a daily basis, like the lakes and the mountains, and I was like in
Uh-huh.
awe. So I wanted to share it. So I met, through expat groups, and I could find those people, the same people on Instagram. And then being French, we follow each other. It's like, oh, there's a
Mhm.
French here, there's a French there. So it's kind of like a great network of virtual friends. Some of them
Okay.
I've met because they've stopped on the way to Montreal. So, hey, Geraldine, we're going to be in the Adirondacks. Are you in the area? I said, yeah, we can hook up for a coffee or
Oh,
something. So
sweet.
that's really,
Okay.
yeah. So I told people, so making contacts and communicating with people with that. I've met people when I came back to France, people that either had started following me on Instagram and I just one day I was out with my daughter walking the dog, and Helen, her name is Helen, she says, "Hey, you just went right in front of my house." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" So I said, "Well, if you want to have a coffee, next time I come back, we can have a coffee." And we met like that. And
Sweet.
and each time I go back to France, I said, "Are you free for a coffee?" Or, and
Okay,
then
yeah.
we're still in touch and on Instagram. And this was really cool. So I've asked my friend Cece, and we did some conversation. And then I did a story on Instagram, and I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about, doing something for specifically French people, some of them, and this is a repeated thing that I've seen on expat group, is like, I'm going to move to the States, but my English sucks, or I don't feel
Uh-huh.
comfortable, or my English is basic and I'm afraid I'm not going to be understood. Or so I'm like, there's something to do, because I've been there. When I was young, English was not, I remember my very first year, I struggled. But I had this really, really
Mm-hmm.
nice young teacher, even though she was like, had the look of a British punk or whatever. She was
Yeah.
so nice, and she said, "Look, Geraldine, I know it's hard, but keep on doing, hang in there. It's going to work out. I swear. Keep on writing the words." I was making awful spelling mistakes. She goes, "You'll see, it'll click." So I kept on following her
Mm-hmm.
advice, and I'm like, I've always loved helping people. Even in school, when I was good in English, people would say, "Hey, can you have a look at this and check if I've made mistakes?" Or,
Mm-hmm.
like, I would ask help for math, because like I'm not getting it. Can you explain? And it would
Uh-huh.
be very supportive. So I'm like, I want to make something supportive. I want to be able to create so people can connect
Mm-hmm.
and help each other.
Yes, help each other. That is a good ending to this conversation. Kind of had a abrupt ending here, but thank you again, Geraldine, for your time to be a guest on my podcast. It was such a cool story, and definitely check out her Instagram. It's called Spoken USA. It's SPOK apostrophe EN hyphen USA. Definitely a link in my show notes. And it's kind of for you to get more comfortable with the English language. And it's kind of like a French connection in the USA. So if you're from somewhere else and you are somewhere else, I'm sure there is an Instagram site for your specific background as well. Then I also had to add a link in the show notes for the Adirondack Mountains, because it looks so pretty, guys. I want to go. It's really beautiful. She raved so much about it, so I had to check it out, and I Googled it, and maybe it's gonna be my next vacation, maybe, or your next vacation. Yes, it's gorgeous for sure. If you want to be the next guest on this podcast, then please reach out to me. It's worldscollide123pod@gmail.com, or on Instagram, it's worldscollidepod, just one word. Yeah, let me know what you think, and if you really like this podcast, then please leave a 5-star rating on wherever you listen to it. And I am your host, Victoria, and I hope you will tune in next week for the next episode. Bye!